If you believe that if you do absolutely nothing, you're either going to die or you're going to suffer great bodily harm. You're going to be arrested, you're going to be taken in, and potentially charged with something until it doesn't matter how many moves or techniques you know. It matters if you can deploy your knife quickly. Should you carry a knife for self-defense? Well, it's kind of like an old person who can't hold in their pee anymore. Depends. Wow, and you're still watching after that terrible joke. Okay. My name is Frank Latella, and I'm the owner and founder of Boynton Guns, a retail firearms store and training center in South Florida, as well as the owner and founder of Strength for Combat. So Strength for Combat focuses on reality-based self-defense. And the reality is weapons are a part of our lives. And if your life is in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm, a weapon might be the only answer to save yourself. I'm a big supporter of law enforcement. I'm a law enforcement firearms instructor, but you are your own first responder. The police come afterwards, typically to clean up, to file a report, okay? You have to do whatever it is necessary to protect yourself. So this video is going to be regarding should you carry a knife for self-defense, but it's not as simple as a yes or no. You have to understand the legal side of it as well as the practical side of it. So I want to say that I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. But as a DI instructor in the state of Florida, so DI is a security officer instructor, and for that I was required to learn, and I currently teach, the basics of the use of force. So security officers in Florida have the same rights as civilians because, well, that's what we are. That's what security officers are. Law enforcement officers that are sworn, they have different rights and abilities when they are working and potentially when they're off duty as well. Now, the second part being the practicality of this. You have an edged weapon in your pocket. You're carrying a knife. Well, so what? If you can't deploy that quickly under stress. Good job, you got it out in time. Well, now what? An untrained person might be, well, you just, start poking away. And well, that might not be wrong in some instances. Understanding a proper stance, understanding angles of attack to be effective with that. You see what I'm saying? So I mentioned earlier Strength for Combat, a reality-based self-defense training center. So my instructor, Mike Lee Kinerik, Israeli Special Forces veteran, an expert at knife fighting. So I've been training with him for over a decade, working what we call knife fighting, right? Israeli tactical knife fighting. In fact, I made a video about 4 years ago regarding the fundamentals of Israeli tactical knife fighting. I'll put the video in the description. Make sure to check that out. That relates to the practical aspect of this. Now, when it comes to knife fighting, in the system that I teach and that we train in, it's called Haganah. So the Haganah system specializes in knife fighting for self-defense. My instructor has trained many military units in the U.S., in fact, every single branch of the military. When it comes to knife fighting, there's a science behind it, right? It's not just put it in your hand and go. As a firearms instructor, and a few videos I posted in the past were firearm related, everybody understands that there are tactics behind shooting, right? How to clear jams, fast ways to draw, clearing rooms, going through doorways. But we can't say it's completely different with a knife. It is a weapon. There are things that you have to learn. There are different ways to hold it and how to stand. So I'm going to talk a little bit about certain facts. Then I'll give you my opinion, and I want to hear from you. I don't post these videos saying, well, this is it. I want to see somebody in the comments, maybe a law enforcement officer that says, no, Frank, you're wrong about this. I want to see someone who also trains martial arts or some type of knife training and say, well, I disagree with that. I want to hear it. So make sure to comment below. Now, if you get any value out of this, even if you may not have liked some of the things I said, but if you learned something, consider subscribing to this channel. My goal is to grow the channel so that I can reach more people. When I reach more people can hear different sides of the story, okay? So give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, subscribe. Let's get into it. This is a video simply to get you thinking. Someone who might carry a knife on them every day and then realize, ooh, I really didn't know that. I thought I could do this or that. Simply to get you thinking, okay? Now, everybody has a law enforcement friend, family member, or someone that they know, okay? Most people do. So talking to them is a good idea. However, law enforcement officers aren't experts on the law. Meaning, if there's an altercation that happens, police come, find out that a weapon was involved, likely you're going to be arrested, and then you have to get an attorney. But essentially, you or your attorney has to explain. So my advice is do your own research, but if you can, contact an attorney and get an actual answer for where you live, because each state is going to be different, okay? So let's think of a simple scenario. In your mind, you are at the grocery store, walking to your car at night, going for a jog. You're doing something, essentially minding your own business, and you have an edged weapon on you. You have a knife on you, okay? There is a threat. There is a person that approaches you and attacks you. Maybe they are in the commission of robbing you. Maybe they are trying to take you, right? You're a woman, you're getting kidnapped. I mean, a man can get kidnapped too, but there is an actual attack happening, okay? In that moment, if you believe that if you do absolutely nothing, you're either going to die or you're going to suffer great bodily harm, a broken bone, getting thrown to the ground and just getting pummeled. If you believe that you do absolutely nothing, you may be justified to use any force necessary, including deadly force. So whenever I say that, people will respond with,
yeah, but if the attacker's unarmed, you can't do that.
Unarmed does not mean undangerous, okay? If someone simply doesn't have a weapon in their hands, it doesn't mean they can't cause harm. So let me put it to you like this. Disparity of force. Let's make it obvious at first. There is a senior citizen, an old, frail woman, and a young, big, strong, aggressive man attacks that woman. I'm going to go ahead and say the only chance that person has, that older woman has, is with a lethal weapon, a gun or a knife. Or if a bystander intervenes, most likely also with a weapon, right? Now, here's the thing. We can almost all say, yeah, I mean, she's an old woman, you know, she might break a hip. What is she possibly going to do against this big, strong guy? Using a weapon to protect herself in that moment is likely going to be justified. because there is a clear disparity of force. Now, flip that. That old, frail woman attacks, which I don't know how that would work, but attacks that big, strong, young person. And that man pulls out a knife and uses it against that woman. I can guarantee you that man is not going to be justified to do so. So there is that disparity. Now, when it starts to get even, right? You watching this video, you might not be an old, frail woman. Maybe you're an average person, right? Like you don't have a ton of training in martial arts, or maybe you don't have any. You're not in excellent shape, but somebody who intimidates you and might be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, comes up, nothing in their hand, and they're simply trying to fight you, right? I can almost guarantee that if you pull a knife, you will not be justified to do so. You see, taking a weapon out, right? I take this average pocket knife out, and I tell somebody, hey, you're messing with me. You told me you're going to kick my ass. I took this out, okay? Likely, when the police arrive, you may be charged with aggravated assault, okay? You threaten this person with potentially deadly force, and you could have carried it out, right? Well, what if you take that knife out and you end up cutting that person? Your intent may not have been to kill them, but you cut them in the arm. And that other person was not in the imminent commission of a forcible felony, meaning, they weren't robbing you. You didn't feel like your life was in danger of death. Maybe you were nervous, you were scared, but you pulled that out and you cut them, okay? That could be aggravated battery. Maybe you actually had the intent to do harm. Who knows? Maybe that's attempted murder. Once again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm trying to get us, both of us, to think outside the box. So when would you be justified to use that? If you're not an old, frail person, right? When would you be justified to use that knife? Well, it really comes back to the death or great bodily harm, right? If you have an edged weapon on you, maybe there are multiple attackers and you're getting jumped, okay? Whether you're falling to the ground or not, you need something to equalize that. You can't make yourself stronger on the spot. You can't tag team a friend to have that person come in to help you on the spot. Okay, remember, unarmed does not mean that that person is not dangerous. So I'm not saying you can and should use deadly force in this situation. I have no authority to tell you that. Who am I to say that? What I can say is me, in my mind, right? If I feel as if I do nothing and the person or people in front of me are either going to kill me, they're going to rob me, they're going to kidnap the person that I'm with, right? I'm with a significant other. Maybe you're with a child. So this gets the discussion going. Okay, this gets the discussion going. Now, in most cases, you will not be justified to pull a knife out on somebody who is unarmed for the simple sake of now you have to prove yourself, right? 911 gets called. Basic statements are given. Now, you do have the right to not self-incriminate and to get an attorney, but there's a huge chance you're going to be arrested, you're going to be taken in, and potentially charged with something until they're going to detain you until law enforcement can figure out what happened, okay? So having a knife on you for self-defense, in my opinion, is a good thing. Or should I say having a lethal weapon? So it could be a knife. It could also be a gun. But having that reserved for absolute worst case scenario, meaning, and I'm shifting into the practical aspect now, okay? The practical aspect meaning physically training yourself. The legal part is up here, understanding that. But the physical part about being able to use force. So let's put the knife aside for a second and simply talk hand to hand. I always tell my clients that you are your own first responder. Your hands are always going to be there with you. Your hands, your elbows, your shins, your knees. You are the weapon. This is just a tool because by itself, it's just going to sit there. In the hands of someone who has no idea what they're doing, they could still be dangerous and violent with it, but they are not going to use that to its full potential. And what I mean by that is train yourself. Learn how to fight or defend with your hands. Learn what to do if you are on the ground. You don't need to be doing grappling for years and years. Understand the basics of defense and leverage and how to stand back up to your feet. Get in shape. This is an unpopular thing.
Well, if I have a knife, I don't need to work out. If I have a gun, I don't need to work out.
Yeah? Listen to this scenario. A significant other of yours is in danger and they call 911. They can't physically defend themselves at the moment, but they're lucky enough to pick up the phone, call 911, and police are on the way. Who do you want to respond? An overweight, lazy person that is not the weapon, right? They're like, another call, I gotta go to this. And they're physically not all that there. Or do you want that rock star that works out, trains, is strong, is quick, and is effective with their tools? Gun, knife, taser, baton, anything like that. You're going to want that warrior police officer to show up to save the day, to protect your loved one, right? So why don't you become that, right? Why don't you get a workout program together? And maybe you are already doing something, but are you doing fighting specific drills, rotation, right? Throwing punches and kicks require core strength. So my thought is, it's not just the tool that's in your hand, gun, knife, baton, anything like that. You have to make yourself a weapon. Think differently. Physical exercise and strength training, martial arts training, but specifically reality-based fighting. In the Haganah system, we focus on striking, right? We focus on attacking vulnerable areas like eyes, throat, groin. We do weapons defense. And of course, there's that cross-training aspect, partially with Muay Thai kickboxing, physically being able to do that. And then having a knife or gun on us or near us for that worst case scenario, not the first option, okay? So now, zoning back in on the knife, okay? Zoning back in on the edged weapon when it comes to training with it. So my instructor, Mike Lee Kanarick, a knife fighting expert, I trained with him for over a decade, and he says that fights are won and lost off of basics. So get really good at the simple, practical things. It doesn't matter how many moves or techniques you know. It matters if you can deploy your knife quickly. Get a good grip on that. If you're familiar with firearms, you know that if your grip is all wonky and loose, you're not going to be accurate and you have a high chance of a malfunction. Well, if your grip sucks on your knife, you might use it and the knife might fall out of your hand. you're not going to get the proper angles of attacks when it comes to slashing and stabbing. So when it comes to the basics, you have your stance, or should I say you have your grip, but you also have your stance. Bring it back to shooting. Bring it back to fist fighting. Even if you don't have training, turn on a boxing fight or a MMA fight, and you're quickly going to see they both are standing a particular way so that they can attack, but so that they can also defend. So when it comes to using a knife, it's no different. Your grip, your stance, your movement. Movement is life. So if I'm standing still, I'm a sitting target. I need to work angles. I need to be able to move my body. Angles of attack. Taking a weapon, a knife, and just doing this, well, maybe you'll get lucky and stop the threat. But being able to slash and stab and come from different directions. Once again, reference the video. I'm going to put it in the description. Israeli Tactical Knife Fighting Fundamentals. And then there's a part 2 version of that as well. So in addition to your grip, your stance, the angles of attack, well, now you need to bring in a third party. So what I mentioned initially, you can do all that at home. Follow the video that I put up. But when it comes to taking it to the next level, having a training partner or taking a formal training class to be able to move and block with that knife, to be able to redirect the person's attack. And one of the most important things is knife sparring. Training against somebody who also has a knife. What attacks or what targets on their body should I attack? Well, if you say, well, the first thing should be the neck, I disagree with that, right? It's just like going for that one punch knockout. You have to set it up first. So being able to knife spar. You don't need to train for over a decade like myself to be able to protect yourself. You need to change your mindset, right? You need to get in good physical shape. You need to know how to fight with your hands. You need to know what to do if you get taken to the ground and how to stand back up. Notice how I didn't say you need to learn how to fight from the ground. Yeah, you have to learn some defenses and some basic attacks, but stand back up to your feet. Then you need to have, in my opinion, a lethal force option. Maybe to you, that's a knife. Maybe to you, that's a gun. Maybe it's both. But learn how to use them and reserve that for worst case scenario. So I want to hear from you now. Give me your feedback. Do you think what I said makes sense? If you don't hold back. Tell me where I'm wrong. Give me your opinion. What knife do you carry every day? Is it a folding knife? Is it a fixed blade? I want to hear from you. Once again, when it comes to the legal aspect of things, each state is different. Here in South Florida, we have more rights than some other states. We have to be responsible with those rights so we stay out of handcuffs. But we do have more rights, especially with the permitless carry law. When it comes to firearms, weapons in general. But you have to do your research in your state and see what you can carry, but also where, because there will be restrictions in most cases as well. Guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this whole video. If you like what you saw, please consider liking, giving a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel to see more content like this. And once again, you are your own first responder. I'll see you soon.